The lessons began. Mike and I met with his dad that morning at 8 o'clock. He was already busy, having been at work for more than an hour. His construction supervisor was just leaving in his pickup truck as I walked up with his simple, small, and tidy home. Mike met me with at the door, dad on the phone, and he said to wait on the back porch. I said as he opened the door. The old wooden creaked as I stepped across the threshold of the aging house. There was a cheap mat just inside the door. The mat was there to hide the years of wear from countless footsteps that the floor had supported. Although clean, it needed to be replaced. I felt claustrophobic as I entered the narrow living room that was filled with old, musty, overstuffed furniture that today would be collector's item. Sitting on the couch, there were women, both a little older than my mom. Across from the woman, sat a man in workman's clothes. He wore khaki lags and khaki shirt, neatly pressed but without starch, and polished work boots. He was about 10 years older than my dad. They smiled as Mike and I walked past them towards the back porch. I smiled back shyly. Who are those people? I asked. Oh, they work for my dad. The older man runs his warehouses, and the women uh, are the managers of the restaurants. And as you arrived, you saw the construction supervisor who is working on the road project about 50 miles from here. His uh, his other supervisor who is building a track of houses left before you got here. Does this go all the time? I asked. Not always, but quite often, said Mike, smiling as he pulled up a chair to sit down next to me. I asked my dad if he could teach us how to make money, Mike said. Oh, and what did he say to that? I asked with a cautious curiosity. Well, he had a funny look on his face at first, and then he said that he would make uh, us an offer. Oh, I said, rocking my chair back against the wall. I sat there, perked on my real legs of the chair. Mike did the same thing. Do you know what the offer is? I asked. No, but I will soon find out. Suddenly, Mike's dad burst through the Ricky screen door and onto the porch. Mike and I jumped to our feet, uh, not out of respect but because we were startled. Ready, boys? He asked as he pulled up a chair to sit down with us. We nodded our heads as we pulled our chairs away from the wall to sit in front of him. He was a big man, about 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. My dad was taller, but the same weight, 5 years older than Mike's dad. They sort of looked alike. Th- do not the same ethnic makeup. Maybe their energy was similar. Mike said you want to learn to make money. Is that correct, Robert? I know. I nodded my head quickly, but with a little precipitation. He had a lot of power of behind his words and smile. Okay, here's my offer. I'll teach you, but you won't do it in classroom style. You work for me, I'll teach you. You don't work for me, I won't teach you. I can teach you faster if you work, and I'm wasting my time if you just want to sit and listen like you do in school. That's my offer. Take it or leave it. May I ask a question first? I asked. No, take it or leave it. I have got too much of work to do to waste my time. If you can make up your mind decisively, then you will never learn to make money anyway. Opportunities come and go. Being able to know when to make quick decisions is important skill. You have the opportunity that you asked for. School is beginning, or it's over in 10 seconds. Mike's dad sat with a teasing smile. Take it, I said. Take it, Mike said. Good, said Mike's dad. Mrs. Martin will be by in 10 minutes. After I am through with her, you'll ride with her to my super tea and you can begin working. I'll pay you 10 cents an hour and you'll work 3 hours every Saturday. But I have a softball game today, I said. Mike's dad lowered his voice to stone tone. Take it or leave it, he said. I'll take it, I replied, choosing to work and learn instead of playing. 30 cents later. By 9 a.m. that day, Mike and I were working for Mrs. Martin. She was kind and patient woman. She always said that Mike and I reminded her of her two grown sons. Although kind, she believed in hard work and kept us moving. We spent 3 hours taking canned goods off the shelf, brushing each can with a feather duster to get the dust off, and then restacking them neatly. It was exaggeratingly boring work. Mike's dad, whom I call Rich Dad, owned 9 of these little super teas, each with large parking lots. They were the early version of the 7-Eleven convenience stores, little neighborhood grocery stores where people brought items such as milk, bread, butter, and cigarettes. The problem was that this was Hawaii before air conditioning was widely used, and the stores could not close their doors because of the heat. On two sides of the store, the door had to be wide open to the road and parking lot. Every time a car drove by or pulled into the parking lot, dust would still and settle in the store. We knew we had a job as long as there was no air conditioning. For 3 weeks, Mike and I reported to Mrs. Martin and worked our 3 hours. By noon, our work was over, and she dropped three little dimes with each of our hands. Now, even at the age of 9 in the mid 1950s, 30 cents was not too exciting. Comic books cost 10 cents back then, so I usually spent my money on comic books and went home. By Wednesday of the fourth week, I was ready to quit. I had agreed to work because only because I wanted to learn to make money from Mike's dad, and now I was a slave for 10 cents an hour. Uh, on top of that, I had not seen Mike's dad since that first Saturday. I'm quitting, I told Mike at the lunchtime. School was boring, and now I did not even have my Saturdays to look forward to. But the it was the 30 cents that really got me. This time, Mike smiled. What are you laughing at? I asked with an anger and frustration. Dad said this would happen. He said to meet him when you were ready to quit. What? I am I said indignantly. He he has been waiting for me to get fed up, sort of, Mike said, and dad's kind of different. He does not teach like your dad. Your mom and dad lecture a lot. My dad is quiet and a man of few words. You just wait till this Saturday. I'll tell him that you are ready. You mean I have been set up? No, not really, but maybe. Dad will explain on Saturday. Waiting in line on Saturday. I was ready to face Mike's dad. Even my real dad was angry with him. My real dad, the one I call the poor one, thought that my rich dad was violating child labor laws and should be investigated. My educated dad told me to demand what I deserve, at least 25 cents an hour. My poor dad told me that if I didn't not get a rise, I was to quit immediately. You don't need that damned job anyway, said my poor dad with indignation. indignation. At 8 o'clock Saturday morning, I walked through the door of Mike's house when Mike's dad opened it. Take a seat and wait in line, he said as I entered. He entered and disappeared into his little office next to the bedroom. I looked around the room and didn't see Mike anywhere. Feeling awkward, I cautiously sat down next to the same two women who were there 4 weeks earlier. They smiled and slid down the couch to make the room for me. 45 minutes went by and I was steaming. The two women had met with him and left 30 minutes earlier. As older gentleman was in there for 20 minutes and I was also gone. The house was empty and here I sat in a musky dark living room on beautiful sunny Hawaiian day waiting to talk to a cheapskate who exploited children. I could hear him rustling around the office talking on phone and ignoring me. I was ready to walk out but for some reason I stayed. Finally, 15 minutes later, at exactly 9 o'clock, Rich Dad walked out of his office and said nothing. He signaled with his hand for me to enter. I understand what I understand you want a raise, or are you going to quit? The rich dad said, and he swiveled in his office chair. Well, you're not keeping your end of the bargain, I blunted out, nearly in tears. It was really frightening for me to confront a grown up. You said that you would teach me if I worked for you. Well, I have worked for you. I have worked hard. I have given up the baseball games to work for you, but you haven't kept your words, and you haven't taught me anything. You are a crook like everyone in the town thinks you are. You're greedy, you want all the money, and you don't take care of your employees. You make me wait and don't show me any respect. I am a little boy, but I deserve to be treated better. The rich dad rocked back in his wheelchair, hands up to his chin, and stared at me. Not bad, he said. In less than a month, you sound like most of my employees. What? I asked. Not understanding what he was saying, I continued with my grievance. I thought you were going to keep your end of the bargain and teach me. Instead, you want to torture me. That's cruel. That's really cruel. I am teaching you, Rich Dad said quietly. What have you taught me? Nothing, I said angrily. You haven't even talked to me once since I agreed to work for peanuts. 10 cents an hour. I should notify the government about you. We have children labor laws. My dad works for the government. Wow, said that rich dad. Now you sound like most of the people who used to work for me. People I have either fired or who have quit. So, what do you have to say? I demanded, feeling brave for a little kid. You lied to me, I worked for you, and you have not kept your words. You haven't taught me anything. How do you know that I have not taught you anything? Asked Rich Dad calmly. Well, you have never talked to me. I worked for 3 weeks and you have not taught me anything, I said with a pout. Does teaching mean talking or a lecture? Rich Dad asked. Well, yes, I replied. That's how they teach you in school, he said smilingly. But that is not how life teaches you, and I would say that life is the best teacher of all. Most of the time, life does not talk to you. It just sort of pushes you around. Each push is life saying, wake up, there's something I want to learn. What is this man talking about? I asked myself silently. Life pushing around? Was life talking to me? I Now how I knew I had to quit my job. I was talking to someone who needed to be locked up. If you learn life's lesson, you will do well. If not, life will just continue to push you around. People do two things. Some just let life push them around, others get angry and push back. But they push back against their boss, their job, their husband or wife. They do not know it's life that's pushing. I had no idea what he was talking about. Life pushes all of us around. Some people give up and others fight. A few learn, a few learn the lesson and move on. They welcome life pushing them around. To these few people, it means they need and want to learn something. They learn and move on. Most quit, and few like you fight. Rich Dad stood and shut the creaky old wooden window that needed repair. If you learn this lesson, you will grow with a wise, wealthy, and happy young man. If you don't, you will spend your life blaming a job, low pay, or your boss for your problems. You will live life always hoping for that big break that you will solve all your money problems. Rich Dad looked over me to see if I was still listening. His his eyes met mine. We stared at each other, communicating through our eyes. Finally, I looked away once I had absorbed his message. I knew he was right. I was blaming him and did not ask, and I did ask to learn. I was fighting. Rich Dad continued, or if you are the kind of person who has no guts, you just give up every time life pushes you. If you're that kind of person, you'll live all your life playing it safe, doing the right things, saving yourself for some event that never happens. Then you die a boring old man. You'll have lots of friends who really like you because you were such a nice hardworking guy. But the truth is that you let life push you into submission. Deep down, you're terrified of taking risks. You really want to win, but the fear of losing was greater than the excitement of winning. Deep inside you, and only you will know, you didn't go for it. You choose to play it safe. Our eyes met again. You have been pushing me around, I asked. Some people might say that, smiled at Rich Dad. I would say that I just gave you a taste of life. What taste of life? I asked, still angry but now curious and ready to learn. You boys are the first people who have ever asked me to teach them how to make money. I have more than 150 employees, and not one of them has asked me what I know about money. They ask me for a job and a paycheck, but never to teach them for money. So, most will spend the best years of their life working for money, not really understanding what it is they are working for. I sat there listening intently. So when Mike told me he wanted to learn how to make money, I decided to design a course that mirrored real life. I could talk until I was blue in the face, but you won't hear a thing. So I decided to let life push you around a bit so you could hear me. And that's why I've only paid you 10 cents. So, what is the lesson I learned from working for only 10 cents an hour? I asked. That's your cheap and that's your cheap and exploit your workers. That Rich Dad rocked back and laughed heartily. Finally, he said, "You're the you're the best change your view of your point of view. Stop blaming me. Thinking I am the problem." If you think I am the problem, then you have to change me. If you realize that you are the problem, then you can change yourself, learn something, and grow wiser. Some people want everyone else in the world to change but themselves. Let me tell you, it is easier to change yourself than anyone else. I don't understand, I said. Don't blame me for your problems, Rich Dad said, growing impatient. But you only pay me 10 cents. So, what are you learning? Rich Dad asked smilingly. That you are cheap? I said with a sling grin. See, you think I am the problem, said the rich dad. But you are. Well, keep that attitude and you'll learn nothing. Keep the attitude that I am the problem and what choices you have. Well, if you don't pay me more or show me more respect and teach me, I'll quit. Put well. Well put, Rich Dad said. And that's exactly that's exactly what most people do. They quit and go looking for another job, a better opportunity, a higher pay, actually thinking that this will solve the problem. In most cases it won't. So what should I do? I asked. Just take these messy 10 cents an hour and smile. Rich Dad smiled. That's what the other people do, but that's all they do. Waiting for a raise, thinking that more money will solve their problems. Most just accept it, and some take a second job working harder, but again accepting a small paycheck. I sat staring at the floor, beginning to understand the lesson Rich Dad was presenting. I could sense it was a taste of life. Finally, I looked up and asked, "So, what will solve the problem?" "This," he said, leaning towards in his chair and tapping me gently on its head. "This stuff between your eyes." It was at that moment that Rich Dad shared the pivotal point of the view that separated him from his employees and my poor dad, and led him to eventually become one of the richest men in Hawaii. While my highly educated but poor dad struggled financially all his life. It was singular point of view that made all the difference over a lifetime. Rich Dad explained his point of view over and over, which I call the lesson number one. The poor and the middle class work for money. The, the rich have money work for them. On that bright Saturday morning, I learned a completely different point of view from what I have been taught by my poor dad. At the age of 9, I understood that both dads wanted me to learn. Both dads encouraged me to study, but not the same things. My highly educated dad recommended that I do what he did. "Son, I want you to study hard, get good grades so that you can find a secure, safe job with a big company and make sure it has excellent benefits." My rich dad wanted me to learn how money works so I could make it work for me. These lessons I would learn through life, with his guidance, not because of a classroom. My rich dad continued. "My first lesson. I'm glad you got angry about working for 10 cents an hour. If you hadn't got angry and had simply accepted it, I would have to tell you that I could not teach you. You see, true learning takes energy, passion, and a burning desire. Anger is a big part of that formula, for passion is anger and love combined. When it comes to money, most people want to play it safe and feel secure, so passion does not direct them, fear does. So it is that they'll take jobs with a low pay." I asked. "Yes," said Rich Dad. "Some people say I exploit people because uh, I don't pay as much the sugar plantation or the government does. I pay the people exploit themselves. I say the people exploit themselves. It's their fear, not mine." "But don't you feel you should pay them more?" I asked. I don't have to. But and besides, more money will not solve their problems. Just look at your dad. He makes a lot of money, and he still can't pay his bills. Most people give more money only get into more debt. So that's why the 10 cents an hour, I said smilingly, it's a part of the lesson. That's right, smiled Rich Dad. You see, your dad went to school and got an excellent education so he could get a higher paying job. But he still has money problems because he never learned anything about money in school. On top of that, he believes in working for money. And you don't? I asked. No, not really, said the rich dad. If you want to learn to work for money, then stay in school. That's a great place to learn to do that. But if you want to learn how to how to have money work for you, then I will teach you that, but only if you want to learn. Won't everyone want to learn that? I asked. No, said the rich dad. Simply because it's easy to learn to work for money, especially if fear is your primary emotion when the subject of money is discussed. I don't understand, I said with a forum. Don't worry about that for now. Just know that it's fear that keeps most people working for a job. The fear of not paying the bills, the fear of being fired, the fear of not having enough money, and the fear of starting over. That's the price of starting to learn a profession or trade and then working for money. Most people become a slave to money and then get angry at their boss. Learning to have money work for you is completely different course of study, I asked. Uh, Absolutely, Rich Dad answered. Absolutely. We sat in silence on that beautiful Hawaiian Saturday morning. My friends had just started their little league baseball game, but for some reason I was now thankful that I have decided to work for 10 cents an hour. I sensed that I was about to learn something my friends won't learn in school. Ready to learn? Asked my rich dad. Absolutely, I said with a grin. I have kept my promise. I have been teaching you from afar, my rich dad said. At 9 years old, you have gotten a taste of what it feels like to work for money. Just multiply your last month by 50 years and you will have an idea of what most people spend their life doing. I don't understand, I said. How did you feel waiting in line to see me once I got hired and once to ask for more money? Terrible, I said. If you choose to work for money, that is what life will be like, I said. Rich dad said. And how did you feel when Mrs. Martin dropped three little dimes in your hand for the hours of work? I felt like it wasn't enough. It seemed like nothing, and I was disappointed, I said. And that is how most employees feel when they look at their paychecks, especially after all the taxes and other deductions are taken out. At least you have got 100%. You mean most workers don't get paid everything? I asked with amazement. Heavens no, said the rich dad. The government always takes its share first. How do they do that? I asked. Taxes, said the rich dad. You are taxed when you earn. You are taxed when you spend. You are taxed when you save. You are taxed when you die. Why do people let the government do that to them? The rich don't, said the rich dad with a smile. The poor and the middle class do. I'll bet you that I earn more than your dad, yet he pays more in taxes. How can that be? I asked. At my age, that made no sense to me. Why would someone let the government do that to them? Rich Dad rocked slowly and silently in his chair, just looking at me. Ready to learn? he asked. I nodded my head slowly. As I said, there's a lot to learn. Learning how to have work, money, how to have money work for you is a lifetime study. Most people go to college for 4 years and their education ends. I already know that my study of money will continue over my lifetime simply because the more I find out, the more I find out that I need to know. Most people never study the subject. They they go to work, they get paychecks, balance their checkbooks, and that's it. Then they wonder why they have money problems. They think that more money will solve the problem and don't realize that it's their lack of financial education that is the problem. So my dad has tax problems because he doesn't understand money. I asked, confused. Look, the rich, that's it. Taxes are just one small section of on learning how to have money work for you. Today I just wanted to find out if you still have the passion to learn for money. Most people don't. They want to go to school, learn a profession, have fun at their work and earn lots of money. One day they wake up with a big money problem and they can't stop working. That's the price of the money, knowing how to work for money instead of studying how to have money work for you. So you do still have the passion to learn? Asked my rich dad. I nodded my head. Good, said the rich dad. Now get back to work. This time I will pay you nothing. What? I was in amazement. You heard me. Nothing. You will work for the same 3 hours every Saturday, but this time you will not be paid the 10 cents per hour. You said you wanted to learn to not work for money, so I am not going to pay you anything. I couldn't believe I was hearing. I have already had this conversation with Mike, and he already working, dusting, and cycling canned goods for free. You would better hurry and get back there. That's not fair, I shouted. You have got to pay something. You said you want to learn. If you don't learn this now, you will grow up to be like the two women, the old man sitting in my living room working for money, hoping I don't fire them. Or like your dad owning lots of money but only to be in debt up on his eyeballs, hoping more money will solve the problem. If that's what you want, I'll go back to our original deal of 10 cents an hour. Or you can do what most adults do, complain that there is no enough pay, quit, and go looking for another job. But what do? I asked. Rich Dad tapped me on his head. Use this, he said. If you use it well, you will soon thank me for giving me an opportunity and you will grow into a richer man. I stood there, still not believing what a raw deal I was handed. I came to ask for a raise, and somehow I was instead working for nothing. Rich Dad trapped me on the head again and said, use this. Now get out of here and get back to work.